I would first like to thank you all for being here today to join with us in remembering those who fought and died, and those who are left in hospitals, suffering from the aftermaths of war, and those who serve today in defense of our countries. Today, it is fitting that in this ceremony of remembrance, we pay tribute to all those who in the intervening years since have laid down their lives in the service of peace, justice, and freedom. The freedom that we all enjoy today came at a very heavy price. Our brave men and women in uniform answered the call to duty in defense of our countries and to ensure that the atrocities of war may never come to our soil. Today, at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, I ask that we all join together and think reverently of those who laid down their lives and paid the supreme sacrifice, those who are left in hospitals, still suffering from the aftermaths of war. In our prayers today, I ask that we all pray for those who presently serve in hostile countries and to bring freedom, peace, and democracy. Let us all pray together that the guns of war fall silent so we can bring our brave men and women home to their families and live in the freedom that we all enjoy. May God bless this beautiful country of Mexico. May God bless Canada, and may God bless the United States of America. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Thank you.
Okay, we will now hear the Canadian National Anthem. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Keller. I'm the service officer for American Legion Post 14. Carl Johnson's life matters. A 90-year-old veteran in Virginia, Carl was the last Tuskegee Airman to graduate from the famed school that produced so many heroic African-American aviators. According to a recent article in the Washington Post, the U.S. Army issued Carl a train ticket for a Pullman sleeping car so he could get from Texas to Alabama for his military training in 1946. Carl recalled being told by the station manager that he and his fellow black soldiers were not allowed to use the Pullman. "You have to go in coach," they were ordered. Threatened with jail if they resisted, the soldiers rode for 24 hours and were denied the use of the train's dining car as well. Despite the indignities, Carl would continue to treat his country better than many of his fellow citizens treated him. Carl would extend his military service for another 3 decades, serving the Korean and Vietnam Wars. He would earn a Distinguished Flying Cross and 10 Air Medals and retire as a colonel. Air Force Sergeant Brian McElroy and Tech Sergeant Jason L. Norton were military police officers. Unfortunately, they were unable to extend their military service. Their lives were tragically taken. Assigned to the 3rd Security Forces Squadron, Elmendorf Air Force Base, Alaska, Sergeants McElroy and Norton made the supreme sacrifice. when their vehicle struck an IED while on patrol near Taji, Iraq on January 22nd, 2006. Brian always made us laugh, and he always knew when to jump into a conversation to make us laugh even more. He was a family man, and he really enjoyed talking to his wife and kids. His mother gave him a gold cross that he always wore around his neck to remind him to never lose his faith. Staff Sergeant Richard Cleary said during his memorial service, "He was the best father in the world, and I said that before anything happened." Christina Norton said of her husband, Jason, "The two fallen veterans share the same coffin and headstone because their remains were intermingled from the blast and unidentified," according to an Arlington Cemetery spokeswoman. But their character is easy to identify. Just look up the word hero.
When then Governor Ronald Reagan introduced returning POW John McCain at a speaking engagement in 1974, the future president asked, "Where do we find such men?" He was speaking of the many veterans when he answered, "We find them in our streets, in our offices, the shops, and the working places of our country, and the farms." In other words, President Reagan was referring to ordinary people accomplishing extraordinary things. And it is just the men. Oh, and it isn't just the men. Grace Murray of New York was a curious child at age 7. She dismantled an alarm clock just to see how it worked. Later, she became one of the first programmers of the Harvard Mark I computer and would eventually invent the computer language known as COBOL. The world was fortunate to benefit from the brilliant mind of the woman known by her friends and admirers as Amazing Grace, and by the U.S. Navy as a Rear Admiral Grace Hopper. Although she left us in 1992, we can especially say the world is better and smarter place because of Admiral Grace Hopper. Veterans come in all sizes and shapes, young and old, rich and poor, black and white, and nearly every category in between. They are men and women who serve and still serve America. And their families are diverse as well. We need to remember the wives who briefly but anxiously dreaded every doorbell ring or telephone call as their husband witnessed unspeakable horrors while fighting in hard and pronounced villages that most Americans will never find on a map. We need to remember the modern military families who deal with frequent address changes.
Employment by spouses and disproportionate sharing of parental responsibilities. For what they do for us, military families should also be honored on Veterans Day. While their numbers are decreasing, too many veterans are still homeless. As recently as 2014, an estimated 50,000 homeless veterans were identified in communities around the nation. That is roughly the population of Galveston, Texas. And let us remember the estimated 20 veterans a day who commit suicide, and that approximately 20% of Iraq and Afghanistan veterans have experienced PST disorder. Veterans still face long wait lines to use many VA facilities, and the care, while often good, still needs to be worthy of the veterans who serve this great nation. We should frequently remind employers that veterans have been tested under pressure, have completed unique training, and have displayed the leadership qualities that would benefit almost any organization. Hiring veterans is not just a way to show gratitude, it is simply smart business. Veterans Day is an important but symbolic way of saying thanks. But we should insist that our elected officials produce meaningful laws and public policies that will enhance the quality of life for veterans and their families. The American Legion is dedicated to remembering the legacy of all veterans because what these men and women have done for us matters to America. It matters to the people overseas who are liberated from tyranny due to the sacrifice of our military members. From defeating communism, fascism, and imperialism to liberating slaves, keeping the peace during the Cold War, and battling terrorism today. Veterans have accomplished remarkable things throughout our nation's history. Ladies and gentlemen, veterans have preserved the country that we all love so much. Thank you again for allowing me to speak on behalf of our nation's veterans. God bless you, and God bless our nation's heroes and veterans.
We will now have the American National Anthem. Please stand.
At this time, I would like to introduce Bill Martineau. He is a member of the Canadian Legion of Cold Lake, Alberta, and former member of the RCAF, and he will be reciting In Flanders Field, that iconic poem from World War I.
In Flanders fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the sky, the lark, still bravely sing and fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved, and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from failing hands, we throw the